Hey guys, some of you asked me to do a video of how to cut up a chuck roast so that you can use it for steaks and other things like that. Some people just use it for pot roast, and if you only use cut of meat like this for pot roast, then you're really missing out on some good flavor and some good savings, because this particular this came in a pack at Sam's Club. I got two of these. The other one is a lot bigger than this one. I got the smaller one for this video. But it came two of them. It's a little over 5 pounds, and it was $25.05, I think is what the total cost came out to be. So it's like $4.98 a pound. You're lucky to find ground beef these days at prices like that. And what I'm gonna get out of this meat is this area in here, kind of going up through here, is going to be cut into 2 steaks, and I can probably get some steaks out of some of this portion right here, and then the rest of it is going to be cut up into some meat that I will use for like if we wanted to make tacos, or we wanted to do like some beef tips or something like that. You could use it for that. And it's excellent. It tastes amazing. This is Angus beef, and the only reason I'm doing this is because there was a handful of people that asked me after I said something about it to show them how to do it. But I'm not a professional meat processor. I don't even really know what I'm doing. I just saw this meat one day. I've never been a huge fan of pot roast. I'll eat it if my wife cooks it, but that's about the only way that I enjoy it. But I saw this meat one day, and you see how, I mean, this is like beautifully marbled meat. And I thought, why in the world are we putting that in a crock pot or a pressure cooker and just letting it cook all day when you could get some amazing steaks out of that? There may even be steaks that are cut out of this and sold. I don't know anything about meat. But I just started doing that, and my family loves it. My wife loves it.
I love it.
So this is why we're doing this, and some of you asked me to show you, and so that's what I'm doing. So I just start right here, and this kind of whole piece will end up being turned into like 2 really good sized thick marbled steaks. And this is just an old cheap fillet knife that I bought at Walmart for like $7. And what I do is just kind of cut along this line there. There's already some fat that is separated that portion, and I just kind of cut around it, and I cut the fat portion off, and I do it like that. Probably not right, probably better ways to do it, but that's how I do it. And so you see that piece right there? That is going to make, I mean, that could be one really amazing steak, but I will turn that into at least 2 steaks, coming from just one of the smallest portions of this roast. There's a piece right here, feels like cartilage or bone or something, that I'm just going to trim out of there. And this knife is pretty sharp. Make sure you have a sharp knife before you do this. This isn't a good knife, but it's a sharp knife. So that's out of there. And then really, I can trim this part off right here. But outside of that, I want all that fat on there. Like to me, that's the most flavorful part of it. So I might trim this piece off right here, because that's really not fat. That's like connective tissue or something. And neighbor dog will get all these pieces, and she'll just be in heaven eating it. So I'm going to cut this just in 2 even portions right down the middle. And you see how that, you can see all that fat marbled in there. And I mean, look at that. That's an amazing, those are 2 amazing steaks. And I would guarantee you that you have never bought ribeye in a store that had that kind of marbling in it. Ribeye, if you were to buy that per pound, it's like 3 times, 4 times what this costs per pound in a store. And remember, this is just one small roast that was in a 2-pack, and the other roast is like more than double the size of what I have here. I'm just using this small one for just a thing. And if you wanted to, you could really get 4 steaks out of that, depending on how big you wanted them. If I was going to cut these steaks into 4, I would cut them right there, and you could have actually 4, not huge steaks, but decent sized steaks. But those are the big steaks that you'll get out of that one.
When do they feed it to the dog?
We'll feed it to the dog in a little while. Over here, this meat you want off there because you're going to use that. That's something good to like saute up for tacos and stuff like that. And this particular roast was sort of already falling apart whenever I took it out of the package. But you really just kind of separate it according to how it's naturally separated when you buy it. But this is kind of a piece all to itself, and we're gonna cut that off. That is actually, that could be a steak right there. And I have done that before. I've cooked that as a steak, and it's absolutely delicious. I'm gonna actually take that off, and I'm gonna cut some of that out. But that right there would cook up like a really nice, just a nice steak almost if you wanted to. But I'm going to use it for just cutting up like beef tips and stuff, or making tacos or whatever. So I'm just trimming off that connective tissue there. And actually, some of the ladies that are friends of mine on Facebook told me that Sam's Club will actually cut meat for you or whatever. So if they will, that's awesome.
You don't have to watch this video.
We've been with Sam's for a long time, and I've never known them to do stuff like that. But if they do, then that's awesome. I might start using it if it's free. If it's not free, then I'm definitely not going to take part in it. But again, I'm not a professional, have no clue what I'm doing, but this is just what we like to eat in our family. So you have that. This, it wouldn't be real good to eat. That's just hard fat that wouldn't taste good. So that'll go to the dog. All that'll go to the dog. And then here, this middle section here, I'm sure some of you guys can think of an amazing way to cook that. I kind of think this portion right here, even though that's fatty, that's worth keeping and cutting some of that meat out of it and cooking it like if you're making just stew meat or whatever.
And it's called a fatty patty.
This right here, I'm just going to cut off this big strip of connective tissue. And I'm going to keep that. You see, that looks like an awesome, that could be like a little fillet. Seriously, it's tender. Look at the grain of that meat. It's just tender. And if you were to cook that like a small little fillet and, cook it to medium rare and let it rest and then slice it, it would be incredible. We want to get that off there. That's not going to taste good. But that would be a good little fillet.
Go to the dog.
And then this, we're just going to trim off like that.
I have a question. Do you trim off the red parts of it or the pink parts?
You just want to make sure you get all the meat off of it. This right here is kind of hard fat that wouldn't necessarily be too appetizing, so I trim the most of that off. And then that is good meat. I mean, that it's an odd looking piece of meat, but it's awesome. You can cut it up into stew meat or whatever. This is the same. I mean, this is incredible. Cut that piece off like that. And so
Are you gonna cook it?
out of, and this would actually be good to throw in, like if you were making if you were cooking beans in a pressure cooker or a crock pot or something like that. I mean, that's just beef fat, and it wouldn't be like throwing bacon in something, but anytime you can add the fat of an animal to what you're cooking, it would be awesome. And so there's a lot of beef fat on there and some meat, and it would help to flavor anything that you were cooking, like pinto beans or anything like that. So that's something good to keep because it's not connective tissue. I mean, that's just good fat there. This is the pile for the dog. This is the pile that you're going to use for steaks or stew meat or whatever you want to use it for. You could easily get 4 steaks out of that if you weren't super hungry, or one of these steaks right here would fill anybody up. That's a filet that you can cook. That is a filet that you can cook easily, and it would be delicious. Trim some of that off the side there, because that's not super appetizing. But you've got 2 fillets. You got 2 fillets, 2 marbled strip steaks. That could be a filet, or you could use that. We'll cook that like a steak, and then here you have tons of meat, or a good amount of meat that you can cut up and use for whatever you wanted to use, cut up beef for, tacos or whatever. So that's how you do it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and Elias has got some things he wants to say about this steak.
I think you've all seen me. I have done YouTube. I have done none YouTube, but I've only done one of my YouTube channels, I think. It's been a long time, but this steak looks pretty good, and I hope he cooks it after so I can eat it. Not him, me, just me. So, I hope you enjoyed this video.